Right, 7 August 2021, and I'm joined by Senator Khaliphani Phugeni. How are you, sir?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm fantastic, man. You know, this interview was not
Yeah,
supposed to happen. Yeah,
yeah.
because I had gone so far. I was gone, bro.
Mm.
And
Okay.
it's a pleasure for me to be talking to you today.
Yeah, you got me worried, eh? You got me very much worried because there were quite few things on my mind that I thought we still needed to do. There is 2023 coming. And I remember the night I spoke to your wife, at least she assured me, but before then, because I was now saying to myself, he can't just go away just like that. But it was
Yeah,
quite a scary. It was quite a scary, especially those 2 days when we couldn't speak. And
yeah.
told you, then I told Fana, and he was praying, and every day would ask me, Daddy, how is Kambakwe? Is he out of hospital? And the day I told him out of hospital, oh, he was elected.
No, thanks very much to young Fana for praying for me. And I think, as I said before, there's a lot of work to be done. And this is some of the work that we need to be doing. And talking to you, I'm sure many people have been looking forward to us talking over the past month. We haven't talked, obviously, because I wasn't around.
Yeah.
And obviously, we also haven't talked about your experience with COVID when you were very sick. We never addressed that topic to say, how did you feel and what did you go through?
Yeah. Well, mine was different from you, Kambako, because if it wasn't of the fact that I was traveling outside the country, I would have never known that I was sick. I remember when the sister sat me down and told me that you've got COVID. We argued for about 20 to 30 minutes, and obviously she prevailed. So I had to go home, isolate, and all those things. And then she promised to check on me, and she did check on me for about 3 days in a row. And then she stopped. And then after a week, she checked. I said, "But how about what if I die?" She says, "No, no, I could tell that you're okay." So I never felt anything. The only issue was that during that period, people were dropping dead out of COVID. So psychologically, that was the only issue. But if it wasn't of the fact that I had to travel, I probably would have never known because my temperature never changed. Everything was okay. But of course, I need to say this to you, Kambak, because it's very, very important. And I'm happy that now you've now got a dietitian who's helping you through these things. You know, every time when we're together and we have to do lunch and whatsoever, you've seen what I eat. And I basically, for those who don't know, I basically eat leaves. I eat leaves, I eat seeds and nuts. That's basically what I eat. And that's what I consume. So it didn't come as a surprise. So I had known that my immune system stands a better chance. Just before I came for this interview, I was reading a peer review paper talking about the role of diet in COVID, that people who generally eat like I do, they hardly suffer. In fact, they hardly contract COVID. And if they do, they hardly suffer at all and they never get hospitalized. So listen to what your dietitian is saying to you. That's what I actually told your wife when I called her and I said, please take out all the sugar, all the processed food, all the oily food. And she was like, yeah, the doctor have just taken that away. And I said, well, he stands a better chance. So yeah, so diet has a big, 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 big role to play. Even as I speak to you, I've got someone very, very close to me. I started preparing him in February. I told him that there is a deadly strain that is coming. I knew as back as February, I could tell the direction this thing was going. So I started preparing him. He was diabetic too. He was on the highest level of medication you can get for diabetic. So I worked with him, reduced his weight from 106 kgs to 80 kgs now. He's no longer on diabetic medication. As I speak to you, he's infected with COVID, but we had also taken him for vaccination. So he's doing extremely well compared to his peers. So there is a lot we need to do. And while we're on the subject, let me just stress this. If you've got comorbidities, so if you've got high blood pressure, if you've got sugar diabetes, if you've got lungs problem and all those things, if you are not vaccinated yet, you've got a death wish. You've got a death wish. You ought to be vaccinated by now. No two stories about it. And I must also say, this is not a mark of the beast. It is not a mark of the beast. It is a vaccination. We're still learning a lot of things about it because it has been produced in record time. But give yourself a chance to life. If you love your family and everything else, get vaccinated. That's our best opportunity. And it's also important, what I spoke about. Go and look at what you are eating. Take away processed food. Take away most of fats and all those type of meats from your diet. Reduce, at least reduce, and you stand a good chance.
Okay, Senator, I think we've covered the issue of COVID. Now let's go to the issue of POLAD vehicles. Have you received as MDCT the POLAD vehicle for your party?
Well, I must remind you, because I see you've forgotten. Remember, when I come here because a lot of people that insist that they think they want to hear my voice and all those things. So if you want to talk about the MDC, call Damba, call witness, and ask them. So most of the times you find that when I'm here, I really would not go that direction. Suffice to say, you would have seen HE saying, making an invitation that people must come and join POLAD. So, and I think you would have seen Damba saying, we are not joining POLAD because it's not inclusive, basically. I mean, I think that's the sum total of what you are saying it does not cover all the constituencies that he feels that it should be accommodating.
Okay, so in your own view, the POLAD vehicles, how do they advance the objectives of POLAD? Well, can you explain to me how giving vehicles advances those objectives?
Remember, I'm the elected spokesperson of POLAD when I was there. So obvious now that there are vehicles and I didn't get, so I must categorically state that it's evil, it's wrong, it's unconstitutionally, that should be happening. Now, let's be fair to the public so that we give a more nuanced analysis of what is happening. Remember, POLAD was initiated by, or rather, let me say it's an invitation by HE to those that contested in the 2018 presidential elections. Very, very important. Now, so he calls them, he says to them, look, we were contesting each other. We had different visions and programs for the country. But I want to acknowledge that you've got a role to play. So basically, he says, I find you valuable to me. This is very important, come back. So HE says, I find you valuable to me. Can you come? Let's sit down. Let's share. Excuse me. Let's share what was your vision, what you would have done for the country in the event that you succeeded. Now, very, very important. Okay, so they gather there. Now, in the meantime, those that are against that are saying he is bringing in losers, inverted commas. it's me who's putting the inverted commas, but they are very rude about it. He's bringing in losers through the back door. It's a waste of taxpayers' money, blah, 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 blah. It's illegal, it's unconstitutional, and all those things. Now, already there you see a problem. Because when HE invited them, he did not cite the Constitution. He did not cite any act of parliament. He called them on his own benevolence. Basically, he was magnanimous in his win. He says, listen, I've won, I found value from you. He did not say to the country, I'm using section so and so, I'm bringing these people, the country needs them. No, he did not force them on the country. They are useful to him. They may not be useful to the country, no one will argue that, but they are useful to him. So you will find that all this hula paloo about a political finance funding act and all those things, it's for me it's a leap of logic. Yeah, I think that's the best description. It's a leap of logic to how do we even get there? Because in the first instance, if you do your research, you'll find that POLAD is basically financed by OPC, Office of the President and Cabinet. And it's not the first time that these resources have been extended towards POLAD, because every time POLAD meets, whether at State House or at any hotel or anywhere they meet, there are resources that have to be spent. And those resources have always been from the Office of the President and Cabinet. Those are the state resources or someone else, but they've always been resources spent, right? Who is spending the resources? It's HE. Now, if this is a waste of taxpayers' money, right? Because remember, why I needed to give you this background. This is not coming from Honorable Minister Prof. Ncube saying, on the budget, I'm putting aside money for POLAD. I didn't see that on the budget. There's no line for POLAD. So the whole political funding act, whatever, doesn't come to it. So HE says, I find value in you. He brings them in. He obviously uses taxpayers' money allocated to his office. If the voters think it's a waste of taxpayers' money, they know what to do. Because 2023 will come, they must vote him out of office for abusing their money, you know, the inverted commas, because they don't think they are deriving value. But the mere fact that HE is using these people, he must pay them. You can't tell me, Kambakwe, that Professor Matugu has no value to offer. Even beyond HE himself, you can't tell me that Professor Matugu has no value to offer Zimbabwe. Only a delusional person will say that. I mean, the man is an oasis of wisdom. When I was doing research for our administrative law, all the papers, it's littered with Prof. Matugu this, Prof. Matugu that, Prof. Matugu this. I mean, if you read even from other jurisdictions, you find his contribution there. So anyone who thinks on the basis that he did not garner many votes and then therefore he is useless, he's got no role to play, he's got nothing to contribute, I question that person's logic and intellect.
Okay, so Senator, I don't want us to talk for too long today. I'm still recovering, and I want us to wrap this up. You are saying that the POLAD vehicles, they advance the objectives of POLAD. In what way? I want us to zero in on that point.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Mind you, the person who can really speak with authority on in what way will be the chairperson of the communications committee there. So I can only comment on saying, is it a good thing to get them vehicles, you know, from a political analysis point of view? And I'm saying yes, because remember, of course, also I have the privilege of having been part and parcel of the whole thing, POLAD. Remember, those people work, there's work that they do. So when they leave, like for example, Harare or Bulawayo or Chekutu or wherever to go and do the work, how do they move? I don't know if you know that during this COVID dispensation, there's been a lot of tasks that HE has assigned them to do. They definitely need vehicles. Otherwise, what must they do? They must get into taxis. There are no taxis. Remember, there is no intercity transportation right now as a result of COVID protocols. So it's a no-brainer. They do need vehicles. The unfortunate thing about Zimbabwe is that because most of us do not have vehicles, or most of us have never bought themselves vehicles, they always think that when you've got work to do and you are given tools so that your work becomes easy, that's the reason why you are part of that. So it's laughable. It betrays how uninformed we are on the issues and subjects which we comment about. I do not blame, by the way, the MTC Alliance for heightening this and making so much noise about it, because they are involved in political communication. They need to make all this noise to activate their base, because 2023 is close by, you know. But as an analyst, there is nothing wrong, there is nothing illegal, because it's vehicles. You cannot say the Political Funding Finance Act has been violated. No, government monies have always been expended towards POLAD.
Okay, I think it's clear, and I think you've properly explained that point. Is there anything else you want to say before we close?
No, I want to say I'm happy that you are back. I do not believe that whole heaven story, but it's fine. It's your story. You can stick to it. but I really want to say to our people, COVID is real. It's real. At least if you are not going to follow this diet thing I'm talking about, which is very, very important, by the way, go get yourself vaccinated. It seems now we do not have an issue of limited vaccines. We have an issue of skeptical people, where they are skeptical about the vaccines. We are lucky as Zimbabwe, because we are using the Chinese vaccines, and Chinese are using what we have always known, where they introduce a small amount of the virus in the body to trigger immunity. And I am lucky, and I think you are lucky. I am lucky that I suffered the thing, so I also have that immunity, in the sense that I suffered COVID, and so I was reading a lot of peer review papers here that I have quite sufficient amount of immunity now until some certain time. But if you have comorbidities, even if you have suffered COVID, go and get vaccinated, because we have seen that if you have comorbidities, your immunity begins to decline quite rapidly, even after 2 months or so. And we have also seen that when you are age 65 and above, also after 6 months, your immunity begins to decline to about 45%. So vaccines right now, I can say this without a shadow of doubt or fear of contradiction, that they are our best weapon in fighting this. Very soon, we need to open our economy. I'm sorry, Kambak, let me also stress this point, because there's this point that people miss. The shutting down of the economy, those measures are very, very important. Let me give an example, Kambak. Right now, Zimbabwean hospitals have accommodated over 5,000 people on COVID, far more than that. Now, imagine if all of those people were to be accommodated by the hospitals in the same week. It was not going to be possible. So you were going to have astronomical numbers of deaths. So how do these lockdowns help? These lockdowns help in relieving the pressure to our healthcare system, making sure that the infections don't all come at once. Because if they all come at once, I can tell you there'll be no capacity. We are stretched as it is. There's no capacity now. So what must we do now? We must make sure that we rush to these vaccinations so that the economy can quickly open, so that also our livelihoods can go ahead.
Yeah, to me, Senator, you're speaking to the converted. I was in ICU, obviously, as you know, and I saw the worst. So I don't wish COVID on my worst enemy, especially if you have to get COVID pneumonia. That is it's the worst thing that can happen to you. Yeah. And it's death looking into your face. So you're right there. People should vaccinate. They should take precautions, and especially the people in Bulawayo. You know that Bulawayo is one of the hotspots now. You saw Trevor Ncube lost his family, mother, father, and I think a cousin, and then 7 members of his family were infected. Bulawayo is hard hit. I think it's one of the most hard hit areas. And as the senator for Bulawayo, I'm sure you are communicating to your constituents there.
Yeah, there is something on the pipeline. You will see this week there is a campaign really that I'm trying to also mobilize some of the senators there that we really ought to roll out. But there's also something where our healthcare workers must assist us. You know, there's this whole thing I'm saying over 80 were not vaccinating. Now I was told by my dad that my mom in the rural areas, my dad, I at least vaccinated him 76. My mom in the 60s, they couldn't vaccinate her. They said, no, we're not vaccinating 60s. I mean, that's another problem, you see. So we have a problem where healthcare workers are sending out a message that is confusing, which is not helping. And then also, we must not tire to engage our people. Our people are correct to ask questions because we want to vaccinate because you must understand that there's always been a vaccination for flu, and others have taken it voluntarily, others have not taken it because we felt, or they've always felt that they don't need it. Similarly with this one, we can't be heavy-handed about it. We ought to be patient with our people and explain to them, because as government, we've got enormous amount of power, and that power is derived from the people. So we must not be seen to be irritated in explaining to them why they need this vaccine, why this vaccine is not 666, why this vaccine is not going to kill them in 3 years' time and for 5 years' time or 10 years' time. It's very, very important. Why this vaccine is not going to stop women from having children. It's very, very important. That is our role. That is our job. So if we get irritated and want to legislate and saying everyone now must be vaccinated or else is this, that's what authoritarian governments do. We are not like that. We are government of the people, and we must be patient with our people and explain to them and make them see science, because science speaks for itself. And so we must be patient and begin to explain these things from them. But if we rush to simply saying do this or else this, we are communicating a negative message. So a lot of people will just shy away and hide there, and the virus will remain with us.
Right, Senator Khaliphani Phugeni, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I hope that we'll be able to revive our usual weekly discussions on the weekends, because it's very important for us to keep our people informed, especially on the political issues. I want us to go back into the political issues very, very soon. I think we're finished.
We will, but having said that, I want you to know, I understand your cliques may work very well on political issues and whatever, but this pandemic is very, very important. Otherwise, if everyone dies, we're going to do that politics with who? So I want Zimbabweans alive. We were doing well with the first and second wave, and something went wrong on this third wave, and we really need to find our way back. People must leave. And the sad thing is that we're even beginning to see numbers of young people, 30 something and whatever, dying. So yeah, it's bad, Kambakwe. It's bad. You are lucky. You could access a hospital, and now in Zimbabwe, I've got a cousin who's a doctor who was telling me that 5 of his colleagues, 5, so in other words, 5 doctors, they lost their parents. So if you've got medical doctors losing their parents over this thing, you must see how bad it is.
Right. Thank you very much, Senator. We'll talk to you again next week.
Good night. Good night to the listeners.
Ay, 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 ay.